Welcome back. This is going to be the second episode of the new series that I'm starting called Journey to Master. The game that I'm featuring today is a game that I played somewhat recently in the 2023 Chicago Open at the end of May. So, as of right now, about a month ago is when I played this game. This game is against somebody named Caleb Denby, and some of you actually may know who he is. Uh, After looking him up online, I learned he's actually known as the master of the Sämisch. The Sämisch being this line where it is d4 knight f6, c4, e6, and either knight c3, bishop b4, a3, or f3 right now. So that's the Sämisch. And so, actually, in this game, these are the moves that were played, and I was expecting him to play a Sämisch. I was expecting him to play f3 in this position. But he did not. He played knight c3, and I was somewhat surprised by this, because I didn't know that at the time that a3 was also a Sämisch. So I played bishop b4, and he played a3, and I was like, huh, well, in any other game, I would retreat, but I have an awful habit, for some reason, of just randomly deciding, hey, I have never played this before. Now's a great time to do so. And so what I did was I took the knight and takes back, right? And we get this position, which has been seen many times. And there are some moves here. You can play knight c6, you can play c5, you can castle. Personally, my preference is to play c5. And the idea behind c5 here is if white is to take, this is just awful. These three pawns are going to be weak for the rest of the game. Black is probably almost winning already after queen a5, actually. So yes, taking is definitely not an option. Pushing probably is not a great option either. And Caleb did neither. He played e3, which is the best move. And so here, keeping in mind that I have never once played this position in my life, I followed the only thing that I knew about this type of position that I saw on a Gotham chess video about 6 months ago. And it is to play b6, knight c6, knight a5, bishop a6, and try and win this pawn. That is the only thing that I knew about this position. I did not know anything else at the time. Now, since then, I have studied this opening a little bit, and now I know what's kind of going on. But so in the game, I played b6 to follow through this plan because it's kind of what black is aiming to do. They just want to win a pawn and say, I'm up a pawn, right? So what happens is bishop to d3, knight to c6, and knight to e2. And this move is actually preparing e4 even further. Uh, he could have played e4 right here because the funny thing is, if I take, there is this move e5, and now my knight has to go back to g8, and after queen to g4, I will just lose. Because this is attacked, my knight is attacked, I can't protect both. So I have to choose whether I want to lose a piece or lose a rook. So no good. Thankfully he did not play e4 because I probably would have taken actually. I'm not sure, maybe I would have calculated further. But 92 is what happened in the game. And so this is just preparing to castle. It's solidifying the center. Now e4 can always be played regardless of whether or not I have played d6, which would stop that whole tactical fiasco, or castled or something. E4 will always be able to be played now. And so following through with the only thing that I knew about the position, I played bishop a6, and my next move was going to be knight a5. And he played e4 here, and I think, almost immediately played knight a5. And knight a5 is just a really bad move, actually, because of this move right here, uh, e5. And so I'm not going to go here, right? because if I go back, he can take with the bishop, and then my pawn structure is completely awful for the rest of the game. If I go to h5, I'm actually going to very quickly get trapped in one move with the move g4. So I'll show you here. G4, the knight has no squares because something can take it everywhere I go. So that would be a good way to lose. And here's the thing with the g4, by the way. He can just play something like h3, and once I go back, takes, takes. This is really bad for me. So what I have to do is I have to play knight g8. And so white is just doing much better here already. This is not a good position for black whatsoever. And keep in mind, Caleb is really good. He's somewhere along the lines of 2250. I think he's close to one of the strongest opponents I've ever played, and I was playing him as black, so I obviously had nerves. Not to mention, I also showed up 20 minutes late because I thought that the round was starting 1 hour later than it actually was. So nerves were definitely on his side for this game. And here he played knight g3, and I was like, okay, there's a big attack coming with knight h5 and queen g4, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try and play g6 or something. But I was like, okay, if he does stuff like that, I'm just gonna play g6, right? So if he goes here, I'm gonna play g6. If he goes queen g4, I have to play g6. I think I have to play g6 in both cases, actually. So this was my plan. What I did not see was this move that he played, which was knight e4. And this knight e4 move is very, very strong. It's threatening to play knight to d6 check, picking up the bishop. And even if he does not pick up the bishop, this knight d6 check does a few things. Say, for instance, trade, trade. This is what happened in the game. And I try and play something like knight e7. This knight to e6 check, I can never castle now. And this knight is really, really, really annoying. Eyeing this f7 square and also just preventing the general natural development of my pieces. And I cannot get rid of it either because I have no way to kick it with a c or an e pawn, and this pawn is never ever leaving, right? Regardless of what I try and do, there's nothing I can do to get rid of this knight. Maybe some knight b7 at some point, but the problem here is actually this move queen f3, and this actually just wins the game instantly. Or at least very close to instantly. I think I have to play this, and you can trade off the strong knight for just a pawn and a big advantage here because I'm still not castled, and you're just going to attack me with moves like this. Okay, but so I did take on d3, and queen takes d3. Um, but instead of playing knight e7, what I did was I played knight to b3, which is a mildly inaccurate move. But my idea was I just want to get rid of the bishop, right? If I can get rid of the dark squared bishop, my problems in my position, you'll notice, are all on the dark squares, right? Especially if I have to play something like g6. My dark squares are going to be ludicrously weak. So I want to get rid of that dark square bishop if at all possible. Now, Caleb is not going to let me get rid of his dark square bishop because it is a very strong piece, and he plays bishop g5. Here, I only have one move, and that is to play f6. Anything else will fail, like knight e7, there's this move again, and then queen f3, or something else where he just takes, and it's just completely over. f6 is the only move that is trying to do something, simply because it's giving a tempo on the bishop. The other thing that f6 is doing is maybe creating this f7 square for my king in the future so that I can run. Uh, he plays rook to b1, and here I was trying to get tricky with this move c4 that I played. And so there, I saw that there was this knight to d6 check, but my idea was once he takes like this, I take this bishop, takes, and so material is equal, and I'm definitely worse because my position is like really, really awful. But I'm not completely like mated yet. I still have some opportunity to attempt to save this game. So I thought he was going to play knight to d6 check. And if you're wondering why the queen can't take, the reason that the queen cannot take is because of this move, knight to a5, hitting the queen, and the bishop is still hanging. So what would happen here is the queen would move, and I would just take the bishop and be up a piece. So he did not do that either. He played this move queen to f3, which is posing many, 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 many problems in my position because he is simply threatening to play either one of these moves and just completely destroy me. So I have only one move to attempt to save this game, and it is this move d5. And yes, this it can also be taken totally for free, like this. But the idea now is that the knight cannot go to d6 because there is a pawn there. So now I will take the bishop. But okay, he doesn't blunder a piece again because these players are really good, and it's a miracle I can beat them half the time. He takes it this way, which is lining up on my queen, potentially threatening to play this move and just like win a rook or something. I have a lot of problems in my position. I honestly thought here actually that I was just completely lost after fg7. My only move here is to try and take this knight. And I thought that after this move, it was just completely over. Okay, well, oops. After this move, I thought that it was just completely over. Um, because if I try and take this, there's this queen f8 move and king d7, and then there's this. But what I missed in the game was actually the fact that I always have this move. And actually, now there's a perpetual here at worst. I'm actually winning this game at best, right? So like this, and I would actually win. I didn't see that. Um, Caleb, to his credit, actually did see that and did not play FG7. After FG7, I was almost inclined to resign. Maybe I would have calculated further. I'm not sure, but it looked really strong to me at the time. But he played F7, and I was like, huh, okay, maybe I have a shot now. And so this position is incredibly complicated, as you can tell, right? My king is hanging, my knight is hanging, my queen is hanging, but his bishop is also hanging, and his queen is hanging. And once I move here, then my knight is hanging, and his queen is hanging, and my queen is hanging, but my queen's also staring at the bishop. Just everything is hanging. Um, and so he plays takes rook because he did not have an extra queen to promote with, so he took and promoted to a rook. And then played this move, queen takes d4. And once we got to about this position, I could tell, okay, oof, I've made it out of the opening. I am now safe, right? And I play this move, queen to d5, and I offer the trade of queens, hoping to get rid of my weakness. I'm attacking the bishop, so I'm almost forcing a trade of queens here. And so he takes and takes, and once I got to this position, I knew that I was never going to be any worse than equal, right? It's equal material. If anything, my knight's probably a little bit better than the bishop because of just where it's standing. It's very annoying. My king is going to get in, and my rooks are going to get in very quickly. But he does have this kingside majority, 3-on-2, so he has potential for a passed pawn, which can be scary. At the same time, though, I have a 4-on-3, so I also have potential for a passed pawn. He plays f3 because he's not going to castle. The king belongs in the center of the board, so he's going to step out like this, and I do the same. To prevent him from coming any further, though, I play rook to e8, stopping this, trying to take control of this file. And he plays this move h4. This move is designed to play h5 and possibly h6, basically just trying to stick this pawn in here and make it weak permanently for the rest of the game. I played rook to e6, and he played h5, kind of following through this plan, and I threatened to infiltrate to e2, which you really just cannot allow that. So he has to play this move rook to b2. If you're wondering why something like this is not as good, it's actually just because I'm going to trade everything off and just play something like either g6, and I'm just never going to be worse because I'm going to just put all my pawns on light squares and defend any infiltration. And if anything, he'll be worse because his pawns are targets for my knight. Actually, I might have this move right now where I play like this, or I can play h6 and maybe try and knock the bishop off the diagonal or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, here I would definitely not be worse. So he tries this rook to b2 move, and here I find this idea where I try and win this a3 pawn with my rook by playing this move b5, and now I'm going to play rook to a6. So he plays bishop f4, and I play rook to a6. And the idea is, if you defend the pawn, then I have this move b4. And the idea behind b4 is you can't take the a pawn. I'm threatening to take the c pawn or the a pawn, either one. And if you take with the c pawn, now you have taken the defender away from this pawn. And so now I have kind of these two connected pass pawns, which can be very nice for me. And then I proceeded to immediately miscalculate. Here, I should have stuck with my intuition and played this move knight to e6, and just kept my two passers. But I thought that I had this move knight to b4, trying to get this fork here, and even after takes, this move, and still trying to get the fork. And what I had calculated was after this move, this move, this move, and this move, that I was threatening the rook and also maybe possibly taking, and I have this c pawn as well, and he'd have to move away from the defense of the a pawn. What I didn't see, however, is that he can just take my rook and play this move, and after rook takes a3, he has this bishop to e5 move, which is just attacking both sides. So it's really tough to actually defend here as black, simply because the bishop is just a better piece in the endgame, right? Here I found this knight to d1 check, and the plan behind knight to e1 or knight to d1 is actually just to put the knight on e3, defending, attacking, and I'm trying to gain a tempo so I can play king f7 and not lose a pawn. And so that's what I was able to do. I was able to play like this, and after here, I definitely don't want to be on this file, so I play king f7, and now my pawn is defended, my knight is defended by the rook, and I still have this c pawn. So he then plays bishop to b2, attacking my rook, and I cannot move it off of the third rank because my knight. So I play rook to b3, counter-attacking, or at least putting some pressure on the bishop. And after bishop to d4, forcing me to move my knight away, and again forking my pawns, I go here, attacking this pawn. Again, the rook was also attacking, but I did not have time to take it because my knight was hanging. But now that this pawn is attacked, he plays rook to a2. And my idea here is, okay, I'm going to take this. He's going to take this. I'm going to have to play king to e6. And if he plays this move rook to g7, I have a fork. And I might even be winning in that position. I'm not entirely sure if I'd be able to convert it, because that's a very tough position to convert. We'd get a position where we have a rook and a knight versus a rook and three pawns, because he's going to take this, right? How many pieces are on the board? 3, 3, 4, 9. Okay. Wait, I can't count. 8. That was a counting with Benjamin. Don't worry about it. But maybe this pawn is fast enough. It actually looks like it might be fast enough here, simply because I'm threatening to just now promote on the next move. You do something like this, I can play check, here, check, and you're forced to go away from the pawn like this, and here it's most accurate to save my knight before doing anything else. But okay, that's not what happened. He did not hang the fork, he instead took with the bishop, And here I just try and promote my pawn. I play c3, and I thought here that he could play something like bishop h6, or maybe rook to c7, just attacking the pawn and giving me less options on what I can do. But instead, what he did was he just took this pawn, takes, and then took this pawn. And I mean, this is a reasonable decision as well, because now the only person who ever wins this endgame will be white with the three pawns. If I'm not careful, one of these promotes to a queen and I lose. So I have to be very, very precise now. Well, I mean, maybe not very, very precise, but I have to be somewhat precise. And so the first thing that I do, and keep this in mind in general, by the way, in any endgame with rooks on the board and pawns or other pieces, if you can cut the king off from the action, generally that's a very, very good thing, right? So now the king is never going to be able to get out and help the pawns because the rook is just cutting the file. So, um, now that the rook is cutting the file, he plays rook to g7, defending the pawn, and I play king to f6, attacking the rook. He plays h6. And now the next thing that you'll see me do here is attempt to drive this king as far away from the action as possible so that my rook, even if it does have to leave this second rank, the king is way off on the other side of the board. After knight to d3 check, I thought he could have played king to f1. Maybe this runs into some rook f2 or rook to c1 check, and knight f4. Actually, that does look like probably it might be a problem. Something like this, and then I'm able to maybe play this move, attacking the rook, and just try and get in. Probably better to go this way so that I have access to these squares. And so the king is getting in, but now all of my pieces are kind of swarming the pawns, so I should be okay here. But in my opinion, he made it very easy for me, and he went this way, which allows me to simply play just rook f2. Um, and even after g4, I still cannot take this pawn, because if I take this pawn, then he has this g5 move, and I will lose because he gets g6 too quickly, right? Say like this, and now I'm completely losing because there is nothing I can do to stop him from just playing like rook to g8 and queening. So maybe I can play something like this, but this is a very difficult endgame to... actually, after this move, I think there is just g7? Not sure. But okay, it's very, very dangerous to allow that kind of thing. So what I do is, as previously stated, I drive the king as far away from the action as possible by playing knight to b2 check. And if you go this way, I'm just going to repeat moves, right? Because I'm perfectly okay with a draw here. But okay, he plays king to c1, and I play knight back. If you go back to d1, I'm just going to play knight b2 again, right? But he goes to b1, and now here, if I really, really wanted to drive the king as far as possible away from the action, I could play rook to b2 check, forcing king a1 before doing anything else, right, like this. But I figured the king was probably far enough away at this point, and I played this rook to g2 move to try and stop g5. What I kind of forgot about was that this just doesn't stop g5 at all, because if I take, and take. There's this h7 move, and I have no way to prevent queening. So I got very lucky here that after g5 and king f5, h7 does not quite win here, because after rook h2, he is one tempo behind. If I waste one move here, it's over because he plays rook to g8, and once I try and move the knight in, he plays g7, and I have no way to defend all of the threats. But not wasting a move and just playing knight to e5 right away, I'm attacking this pawn. There's no way to defend it in extra time. He plays this move f4, takes, and rook to f7 check. I played king to e6, and then here, me and Caleb, we agreed to a draw. This game was very, very, very tough. In the opening, all the way back here, right around here, I played the only plan that I knew, but I did not play it correctly. Here I should play d6 before trying to do anything. And in fact, actually, the bishop being on a6 is actually already inaccurate because there's a queen a4 move attacking just both of these pieces, right? And this is really problematic, actually, because when I go back or maybe play queen c8 or something, there will be this move e5, and I will be or d5, and I will be losing a knight. So yeah, I did not play this well at all. I went for this. The other move that is possible here is to castle. And after e5, then I play knight to e8 and try and play d6 or f6 or something like this. But I went for the only plan that I knew, and it wasn't great. Thankfully, I was somehow able to survive from this position, and we traded down into an equal, if not a little bit better for me, endgame. And then here I possibly had some chances if after here I played knight to d6, attacking the bishop and had my two passed pawns. But I got a little bit overzealous and unfortunately um, kind of lost any chances that I may or may not have had. And so this game ended in a draw, and I was quite satisfied with the result too, especially considering how bad that opening was from me. Um, but yeah, thank you all for watching my video. I think that will probably about wrap it up for today. If you enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe. Um, I just reached 50 subscribers actually, so I'd like to thank everybody who has already subscribed to the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.